Hello, and welcome to another Wayland Free Library 3D design tutorial. In this video, we're going to be using Fusion 360 to create a vase or, pen cup-like object. It won't really be a full tutorial on Fusion 360 though. It's really just kind of a quick trick you could do. And real quick, here's an example piece I printed out, designed entirely in Fusion 360. Just to give you a sense of scale, here it is next to just an average can. This is just one example in a very open-ended design though. What you wind up making can and will very likely be wildly different in terms of style and size. With that in mind, let's get Fusion 360 installed. And good time to point out that Fusion 360 is a free program, but Autodesk, the people that make it, kind of make it a little tricky to get that full free version. So you're probably going to go into your browser, type in Fusion 360 download, and really only see, a free trial, which of course will expire after a certain point. Free for students and educators. None of this is really what we want. So rather than doing the typical thing of typing in program download, just type in Fusion 360 and then either hobbyist or personal use, and you should get this link here. So we can just click on that. And as you can see, the free trial one we saw earlier is just, a month of the paid version that will kind of automatically deactivate after a certain point. Much better idea to just get the free for, hobbyist or personal use. And that way you can come back to it at any point in time. So go ahead and click on Get Started. It'll bring up this screen where you enter an email address and password to make an Autodesk account. Autodesk does also own Tinkercad, so if you followed my other videos or you already have a Tinkercad account, you can just type in those credentials and they'll get automatically accepted. After that, it'll bring you to this screen where you type in some more information, tick a box and click Next. If you are at all worried about, giving Autodesk a bunch of your information for just a 3D design program, you can, as you can see, really type in whatever you want. Autodesk doesn't really seem to care. So yeah, you can type in your actual information if you don't mind. If you'd rather keep yourself private, punch in some gibberish, click Next, and then we get the Download Now button. Click the button, download and install, and then when you launch Fusion 360, it should launch you into this screen, or something very similar. And from here, there are a couple different methods of going about this, all of which are fortunately very quick and easy. So if you want, you can really crank out several designs in several minutes and just go with whichever one you like the most or you think looks best. So to start things off, up here over on the Create tab, we're going to go to Create Sketch, and then it's going to bring up this kind of grid, and we need to pick an axis or axes that we want our design to go along. We want the X or Y, so either these left or right panels. I'm going to go here, and it'll automatically snap to it. I'm going to use the scroll wheel to zoom out just a little bit. As you can see, we have our height measurements in millimeters going up here, 25, 50, 75. And up along the top here are the tools with which we will be drawing out our sketch. Specifically, we want to use these kind of first four, and more specifically, the line and spline, I think, are the best tools for the job. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with basic line. I want my vase or pen cup to be 75 millimeters in height. As you can see, it automatically will snap to this even line. And truthfully, yours can be as tall or as shallow as you want. I'm going to start with 75, aim for 40 something millimeters in length, going by the bottom here. You can ignore the negative signs. And I'm going to draw out a couple of points here. And maybe I'll switch to spline. As you may have guessed, what we're kind of going for here is we're going to basically connect the dots here, kind of making a random design combining these lines. As you can see, as I do so, this will automatically snap to points. Easiest thing to do is just keep snapping to where your sketch previously ended. Give it a nice little base. And we're really just going to keep drawing it out until we have a complete, connect the dots. And then I'll highlight blue and we have, sketched out a complete face. We can now click on Finish Sketch. And with this sketch, we now have a couple different options. The simplest and quickest is the Revolve tool. So I'm going to click that. And I'm just going to move around here a little bit. I'm holding down Shift, clicking down on the scroll wheel on my mouse, and moving my mouse to kind of alter my view. You can also use this cube on the upper right-hand side. But so it automatically selects the face we sketched out. We just need to select an axis. And we want the Z, which is going to be this green line here. As you can see, it highlights, so we can click on it. We'll click on it, and pretty much all these default settings will work for us. As you can see, it's kind of just revolved our sketch around and kind of made basically the body of what will be our vase or pen cup. All we really need to do is add a solid base to it, which I will go over fairly soon. But for now, the second thing we can do, I'm just going to click cancel. And the second thing we can do uses the pattern tool. But first we want to give some dimension to our kind of empty sketch. So we would do extrude. As you can see, there's this arrow here. I can pull out 5 millimeters is fine. As you can see, you can also just kind of type in 5 there. That works. Just hit OK. Then we're going to go to, as I said, pattern, circular pattern. We want to leave type on faces. And for the objects we want to select, just like in Tinkercad, put your cursor in an empty space. Hold down left click for a selection box. Should automatically select everything. And then much like with Revolve, select an axis. We want the Z-axis. We can click the green line again. And as you can see, it automatically revolves our kind of extruded face around. And we can alter the quantity. You can really go as high or as low as you want. I would really just avoid, don't type in like 500 here because there's a good chance that will just crash the program. But as you can see from the outline, that this would kind of form the, decorative body of the vase. So if you like the way this look, you would just click OK, and then you would kind of create a solid cylinder going through and then punch a hole in it. What you can also do is you can just keep upping this until they all kind of merge together. There's a little bit of empty space there, but you can just keep upping it until I kind of form a continuous body. And you would click OK. As you can see, it's pretty similar to how it did with the revolve tool, but it's kind of, more segmented. It's got a slightly different style. And I'll just undo this really quick by holding down Control, tapping Z, and just to kind of show what the other style would look like. Now we'll add 12 of these. Click OK. And then, like I said, all we need to do is kind of create a cylinder to kind of merge these and then punch a hole through the cylinder, which I will now go over how to do. As a quick aside, however, if you've gotten this far and you have a design or two that you really like, but you also really don't like Fusion 360, the way it looks or the way it works or whatever, and you want to use something simpler or that you know how to use, like Tinkercad, for example, you can easily export what you have and import it into Tinkercad and do with it what you will. So, quickest way to do that is on this tab over here. Just click this topmost one, it probably says unsaved. It'll highlight everything, and then go up towards File, click on 3D Print. Make sure this Send to 3D Print utility box is unticked. And then everything else here should be fine. STL, millimeter. Just click OK. It'll ask you where you want to save it. Now, right now it's just going to my desktop, but save it wherever you wish. Just click Save, and then import that file into Tinkercad. And for those of you wanting to finish this in Fusion 360, what we're going to do is go to Create, and you probably guessed it, we're going to do Cylinder. But first I'm going to take more of a top-down view, just to make things a little easier. So we'll align to the top just a little bit here. I'm going to click Cylinder. We're going to select an axis panel. We want this bottom one, the Z-axis. And the simplest thing to do is with this top-down view, we can kind of just snap this to the most center point. You can see it'll kind of highlight it, excuse me, a little blue square. So then just left click that, and as you can see, we're now dragging out a cylinder. And as you can see from the outline, we can make it as big or as small as we want, but this can be altered later. So I'm going to do it just enough that it kind of merges at the base here. And it might default to cut. Just make sure it is set to join. And so as you can see, if we were revolving an option, excuse me, again, revolving an object and we just needed the base, we would just bring this up, maybe 10 millimeters, just click OK, and there's your base if you had a revolved object. But if you got here, we kind of need to merge these and then punch a hole through this cylinder. So we're going to bring this all the way up. And as you can see, it should probably be quite a bit bigger, but we can just use this arrow down here or manually, punch in bigger numbers on the diameter box over here. I'm just going to use the arrow. So I'm going to do it like that. I think looks good. And, it does eat away at kind of the very bottom of this sketched out design a little bit. But I think I'm okay with that. Obviously this doesn't matter. If you were making this yourself and you thought this looks better, go ahead and click OK. But I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit more. Click OK. And we now have kind of the solid internal part of our vase or a pen cup. And all we need to do now is punch a hole through the middle. And to do that, we're going to go over to Create, open up that drop-down window, click on Hole, and pretty much all we need to do is click on the top of our new cylinder here. And as you can see, this red outline is going to be the whole object we have going. It should default to the very center. If it doesn't, easiest way to move it is by holding down left click on this little internal blue circle, and you can move it around. And as you can see, when I'm moving it, you kind of have that little translucent dot towards the center. That is actually the exact center of the face we're on, and it will automatically snap to it. So if it comes off center for you, just snap it to the middle, release left click, and we can go ahead finalizing this whole object. As you can see, it starts off pretty small and pretty shallow, and you can change that by editing the kind of text boxes from the pop-up window that comes up. I'm going to use the arrow and this thing. Since I'm not really going for a specific dimension, I'm kind of just eyeballing. So I'm going to make it quite a bit bigger. I'm going to change my view down here as well. I'm going to use this arrow to bring this close to the bottom. Obviously, we don't want it punching right through the bottom because then stuff will just fall right through it. We still want a solid base. So this looks good for me. The only other thing that might be worth changing depending on your preference is what is called the drill point. Right now it kind of has a sharp bottom to it. If you prefer flat, you can just click on flat. Doesn't really matter. I'll keep it like that. Click OK. And as you can see, we have now carved out the chamber in our vase or pen cup. And all that's really left to do at this point, assuming you have a design that you like, is just select everything, go to File, 3D Print. Again, make sure this box is unticked, and then just click OK, and you'll have that STL file to print yourself or to send to the library. That's pretty much going to do it for this video. As a couple closing tips, remember that you can quickly undo steps. If you revolve your sketch and don't like how it looks and would rather quickly try out the, extrude and pattern method, you can just hold down Control and tap Z, or use the little undo button towards the top here. And I will also say that the coil object coupled with the circular pattern method can make some very interesting vase-like objects, and is actually how I made the one that I showed at the beginning of this video. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, everybody.